Alright, hello, this is Atsushi. Thank you so much for watching the Sashiko Live in English. Sorry to be late by 5 minutes or so. I will be doing the Sashiko stitching while I talk something about Sashiko. Sorry to be late, I broke my chair by dragging it. I hope it's gonna be okay. It should be okay. Hi, yeah. Alright, let's start stitching. I will talk about... I had a few topics in my mind today, but I will talk about Sashiko as the process instead of Sashiko as the result. Thank you for all the comments on the YouTube. I will answer, or I will reply to those comments little by little. But if you really didn't get a comments like back, that means your question is already answered on the YouTube or on my website. So I'm doing everything by myself. So it would be nice to kind of try to find the answer by yourself first. If the question is after them searching for the answer by themselves, I will answer those questions one by one. But most of the question I receive is already explained somewhere, so please try to look at those answers on my website or YouTube or those places that I offer already. And today I will talk about, I'm still thinking, but I'm going to talk about the process over result in Sashiko. Any request, by the way, to talk about? Again, this is the live streaming without any edit. That's the whole purpose of this live streaming, that I'm not going to edit anything. So if you have any request for me to talk about, I will try my best to do so. God, something got stuck to my nose, not throat. I'll be pretty much freaking you out if I'm actually in person right now, because coughing is not good in these days. I hope I don't have it. I mean, I haven't been outside that often, so I should be okay with it. It's not the best time to be coughing around. Anyway, so the reason I am talking about this process over result is that I see I see some description in English that Sashiko is about stitching with a specific pattern or specific design. It is true that Sashiko is the hand stitching for the purpose of making the fabric stronger, making fabric more useful by stitching with the specific pattern. Yes, it is very much true. However, it is not everything of Sashiko. I believe that Sashiko's core is the process of stitching it. people can enjoy, the Japanese people enjoy stitching itself rather than making the beautiful patterns. Of course, they try to make the fabric more beautiful, so they focused on the patterns, they developed many patterns. However, they had to stitch in the ordinary life. Every day, every time there was the need of stitching, they had to stitch. So it was more like an ordinary process of stitching, and therefore I strongly believe that the core of Sashiko is the process instead of the result. Designing is important. The result of how beautiful it is result of the beauty, like as the people say art, or as the craft, is of course important, but that's not it. Like, I don't strictly speaking, I would not call Sashiko if the stitcher only cares about the result. Strictly speaking. Well, please read my article, my writing about the cultural appropriation in Sashiko, to understand how I think about those wording issues. Like, many people call their stitching Sashiko, and many people worries about if it's the cultural appropriation or not. I do have my opinion, I do have my understanding and boundary of those cultural appropriation issues. So please read the article, which should be from the link on my profile. Long story short, I am very much okay. I'm very much okay for anybody to call their stitching Sashiko if they care for the Japanese culture behind the Sashiko stitching. If they don't care about the Japaneseness, or if they don't care about the Sashiko as the word of Japanese word, then that's a little bit of issue. But unless they care for Sashiko, unless they care Sashiko as the Japanese culture, I'm okay with the wording. At the same time, strictly speaking, I do have a pretty specific preference, and strictly speaking, I think the Sashiko is a process, not the only result. Sashiko is a process. That's how I understand that, and that's why I really would like to share the process of stitching instead of the just result. That's why I do the live streaming. I don't have to do live streaming if my goal is to sell the result of my Sashiko art, or like, I don't consider myself artist, or I don't consider what I do as the art. But if I want to sell, if I want to make money out of what I stitch as the result of my stitching, then I don't have to, I probably shouldn't even broadcast what I do. However, since I really believe that Sashiko is the process instead of the result, like, the result is the secondary. Therefore, I would like to focus on the process. And process can be different too. I mean, the process can be diversified. It doesn't have to be like, exciting, or it doesn't have to be one specific theme in the process. It can be exciting, can be meditative, it can be... I don't think people would suffer by doing stitching, but it doesn't have to be one specific thing. Just I want you to kind of focus on the process rather than the result. And then when one can focus on the process, the result will be kind of good automatically. That's how I understand Sashiko. The more we focus on the result, the stitches will be uneven. The more we focus on the process, the result will be beautiful. It's very interesting, but that's how it works. So I get a question like, how can I make my stitches so even? My answer is, don't try to make it so even. Just focus on the needle movement, so that the stitches will be even later on. And sometimes I see the description of Sashiko as the visible mending, and I sometimes use that as well, but technically speaking and strictly speaking, Sashiko is not the word for the visible mending at all. In fact, Sashiko is more like invisible mending. That's more like a Japanese culture of the shame that they wanted to hide those mending, and therefore it's the culture of, well, Sashiko itself is the stitching practice, but at the same time I don't think it's a visible mending, it's more like invisible mending. I probably will talk about those visible mending and invisible mending when I have actually a project of mending. Right now I'm just stitching the fabric, so I shouldn't probably... It's probably much easier. It is much easier to talk about the mending when I actually do the mending project. So I will skip that for now. But... Sashiko is just the process of stitching, so anybody can do it. There's no such a thing as the right and wrong. And there's no such a thing as the perfect result. It's just us enjoying stitching. Yeah, my throat is not really good. Thank God this is not the workshop, or this is not the in-person workshop. God, my stomach is growling too. Whoosh. Like, for example, when I stitch Asanoha patterns, like I stitch Asanoha pattern a lot, there is not a right order to stitch. Depends on the size of the Asanoha patterns, the size depends on the fabric. The order of how to stitch is very much different. So you don't have to focus on the one specific correct answer. So just try to kind of enjoy the rhythm first. That's what I really want you to try to learn. Hello from Argentina again. I would like to know, what do you do at the end of the thread? We do not make a knot at all. We do not make a knot. And for those information about how to not to make a knot, or how to not to hello Sakura, how to stop the thread without the knot, I do have a video on the YouTube channel. You probably can go to the sashi.co channel, like sashi.co, same account. If you search for the video saying how to not to make a knot, you should be able to find the video explaining how to not to make a knot. How to not, yes. So there is a video explaining that. But long story short, we do not make a knot at all. Sakura. 失敗した。いやYes, thank you. Yes, the answer is already on the YouTube. So that'd be great if you could check that video. It should be saying that how to not to make a knot in Sashiko. Whew. It has been a kind of long week. I mean, it's really stressful for anybody at this moment, so I hope you can kind of not relax, but I hope you can be mindful. Like, mindful is a good word for that. I hope you can be mindful when you do sashiko or when you hand stitch. And the hand stitching itself is a very good way to ground ourselves to the ground. Grounding. And right now there's a lot of information going on around what to do, what to not to do, be afraid, be scared, let's not do that, let's do that, blah blah blah. It is very important to follow the correct information. At the same time, sometimes news can be a toxic things to watch. So I strongly recommend you to do the stitching or anything with hand without news on for like an hour or so every day. The good thing about stitching is that you cannot Google while you make stitching. Well, you can watch the TV and you can watch news, but you don't have any access to Google unless you ask Alexa for that. But technically speaking, both of your hands are occupied with something, with stitching, so it's a really good way to avoid a smartphone. And again, like, it's impossible to not to check the phone. It's impossible to not to check the news. But at the same time, it would be nice. It is at least it is helping me to stay in sanity to just stitch like this every day. But yeah, we are, I am probably very tired by those news and, I am trying my best, yes. Thank you. I wish I could do something more to help the others, but, what I can do as the Sashiko stitcher is to advocate the importance of being mindful at this moment and sleep well, eat well. And I wish I could be like a stand-up comedian here so that you can laugh. Laughter is the best way to increase the immune system. So keep laughing. Keep laughing is not a best way to make you laugh, but keep laughing. That's the best information I can share. Let's keep laughing somehow. Doesn't have to be a stand-up comedian, doesn't have to be the painful joke. some joke, something that you can laugh at is very important. I don't know, but I would like to learn how to make a kind of like a kind joke, positive joke, positive joke. It is so interesting to make a positive joke. Like some stand-up comedian makes fun of the others and then get laugh, right? I'm not that big fan of that. Is there like if there's any category, I would like to make a joke category that everybody makes, like not everybody, people become happy after, like everybody becomes happy after that joke. That's my kind of dream. I don't know how, and I don't know if that exists or not, but yeah. あれ合ってるかな、合ってるよな。Sorry, I'm not really speaking today. I probably should be talking more, but I might be just do the stitching today. There's so much information again going on right now, and I don't want to even talk about it. It's probably the topic we should be discussed now. We should not should be. It's easy to talk about it, but I don't want to talk about it because you'll hear that every day, everywhere from somebody. I'm not going to talk about it. Instead, if you're listening this one with the stitching, let's focus on stitching. That's something I can do. If you're just watching this and expecting to hear something, ask me the question. I will talk about that, but not the things it's going on around. I mean, Sakura, no. That's a very good question. Do I have something specific in mind that you're stitching for? That's a very good question. I always think that I want to stitch better, but when I think about that, the stitch gets not that great. So in 2019, I have one kind of segment, one part of this stitching that I am very much proud of myself, like very satisfied. I stitched that in 24 hours of stitching online, like live streaming of 24 hours stitching, which I did in June. And that part, I don't have any memories whatsoever because I was so sleepy. So for that, by doing that, I learned that if I think for something, if I aim something specifically, my result gets kind of not satisfactory. So when I stitch, I try to focus on the rhythm. Try to focus on the movement instead of the result or how I wanna be. And usually I watch TV. Either I do the live streaming or, watch TV. So I don't have anything in mind much for that matter. The best thing I can do right now is keep stitching while watching The Office. I think the Michael Scott is the best way to kind of overcome the situation for me. Oops. I hope it made sense. I, of course, sometimes have some specific thing in my mind to stitch for. If it's for somebody's like specific design, I try to focus on that. But usually I try to not to think about those specific things when I stitch. Sakura, please. Thank you. Well, I'm trying to have fun. Like, fun is not like, drinking alcohol fun or like laughing or partying fun. But it's a good thing to just kind of, meditative. Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. What is my favorite material to stitch on? The cotton fabric. Cotton fabric. Especially from those kind of Japanese traditional fabric mill. There are still some which produce the same kind of fabric which became which became vintage fabric today. They are kind of closing already. Not already. They're slowly closing because of this economy, and no younger generation wants to take over that business. But there are still some fabric mill which creates the fabric as the Japanese people did in the past. One of the fabric is like this one, and I'm a big fan of those cotton fabric, kind of heavy cotton fabric. It is just simply comfortable. It's very enjoyable to stitch. So since I focus on the process, I try to choose the fabric which makes me want to stitch more. And that's usually cotton. Why do you leave long strings in the end? I explained that why on my website upcyclestitches.com as well as on my YouTube. I think you can get the reason why by searching for that video. Like video is the how to not to make a knot, and also I think why loop. That's the blog title I wrote the article about why I leave those long tails. This is very much it's very important to learn that. It is it is traditional way in my tradition. Everybody who was stitching in my childhood was doing this method. Yep, thank you. The YouTube video should be how to not to make a knot, and there's an article on my website why loop. If you if you check two of those articles in video, it should give you the a general understanding of this loop and also the tail. Long story short, some of those tails will be clipped off after stitching. Wow, I don't really talk today. Is that okay? Like, I kind of enjoy the quiet stitching as well. Especially today because of so many newses. There's so much news that I don't want to even hear anymore. We should really follow the precautions, but again, like, news is really scary. I should be talking about more Sashiko, but I don't know. I don't know what I want to talk to. I talked about the process is more important than result. For us. For us, the process is more important than result. And Sashiko is not about designing, or Sashiko is not about how to make your fabric beautiful. It's more like a process of the ordinary people's ordinary process. But more than that, what else can I talk? Hello, hello. Oh, one question. Do you prefer the live streaming on Instagram or YouTube? It would be great. It would be great if you're watching this on the YouTube, if you could write down a comment if you prefer the English. I mean, not English. If you prefer this on if you prefer this on the Instagram or if you prefer this on the YouTube. And also if you have any like a preferred time in Eastern Zone, like which is the New York time, if you have any specific time zone that you would like to have, please let me know. One of the things about the Instagram live streaming is that it's really easy to start because I have to have only the smartphone, and it is easy for many Japanese people to join because that's how I was doing for last 3 years. One thing which is not like really good about live streaming on Instagram is that the quality of video is not that great, and I cannot really do the big project. I can do only stitching in front of the camera because the smartphone is just right here. So as long as I do the stitching in front of the camera like this, I think the Instagram is okay. But if I want to do, let's say, mending project or like a big denim Sashiko stitching, YouTube might be a better idea to do so, and I might do it later on. So if you could let me know your preference, that'll be very much helpful to understand. Probably I'll do both, but as of now I'm doing it a lot on the Instagram, simply because it's easy to start and it's really easy. Just press the button of the Instagram and also it's easy to see the comments as well. Like YouTube has a lot of delay. That's one thing I don't like about YouTube. YouTube live streaming has a lot of delay. So, well, let's see. Well, actually, Instagram has a lot of delay too. Let's see. Instagram, I can watch it easily at home or on the go. Okay. Thank you. Is YouTube more difficult to watch if you're on the smartphone? Or I think it's kind of the same though, right? You can watch the YouTube from the smartphone as well on the go. It's this probably the app we use for. So yeah, but one thing I really like about YouTube is that I can use the webcam to focus on my project instead of just here. I have only here because of my camera, I mean smartphone. Let's see. Eh, eh. Where was I stitching? Oh, there we go. Okay, one more thread. I will. That was a little loud. I'm sorry. I will make one more thread. That's it for today. Sorry, today's live streaming is not that informative. It's not that exciting. I just pretty much stitch. But I think it's very important to be just quiet and mindful in front of the stitching. So try to stitch as much as you can. Hand stitching is gonna ground you from those waves of information. Sakura. Actually, breathing deeply is very important in this kind of case scenarios. Kind of focus on your breathing when you stitch. It is kind of interesting to focus on how you breathe when you stitch. What is going on? Sorry, my cat kind of lost her mind. What's going on, Sakura? That's your tail. So, when I am very much in the stress, or more like excitement or frustration, or those, how can I say that? I do have a both moment of breathing shallowly, shallow breathing while I stitch, and there's also there's also the moment that I breathe deeply when I stitch. Usually, when I when I breathe deeply, the stitches will become more beautiful. It's more like a usual thing, so it's not always, but it's kind of important. It's kind of important and interesting to watch or be mindful of your breathing, how you breathe when you stitch. I tend to breathe a little shallow when I do the live streaming because I have to talk. My brain is more like what to talk about. But if you could breathe from nose, breathe in from nose, breathe out from exhale, inhale from nose. Actually, inhale from nose and exhale from nose. Like you kind of focus on the nose. Like there's a little I don't know how to say those things in the English, but there's a little not a hole, little dent, little I have to how do you say that this is the lip, right? Here. How do you call it? It's the nose here. Here, how do you call that? There's a little, not a bump, but this is the lip, this is the eye, this is the nose. There's something in between those, there's something in between here, right? Like, there's a little dent, like a bump, not a bump, little, I don't know how to say that in English. Sorry for the drawing, but my 5-year-old daughter makes better drawing. But focus on here. Focus. What I want to tell you there is not about my drawing. It's about the breathing. So when I focus on the breathing here and make kind of deep, slow breathing, the result is kind of satisfactory. I hope it makes sense. God, this was bad. Like this. In fact, I really want to try to focus on your stomach and also the breathing when you do Sashiko stitching instead of the fingers or result of the stitches. If one can focus on the breathing and also where the power is coming from, the force is coming from, I think one can make a very beautiful stitches. Yep, that's very good. So today's topic was the Sashiko is not about making a result much. It's about the process for me. Sashiko is not about design. Sashiko is not about one specific patterns. It's about the process for me. So it's a very good way to kind of conclude today's topic by saying that breathing is quite important in Sashiko stitching. Yeah, it is very important. I kind of like it. By me saying, like, I said it by myself, but I like it when I focus on the breathing and where the strength are in my body. That makes a good, nice, comfortable stitching. Doこ行こうかな。Just a second, I'm still thinking. どこにどう行ったらいいかな。Okay, thank you for watching today's live streaming. I will come back on the Friday if there's nothing. Today's topic was the process, Sashiko as the process instead of the Sashiko as the result. I want to kind of focus on the kind of process. And the result will be beautiful if you focus by focusing on the result. And this will be like Asanho patterns sooner or later. Let's see how it's gonna go. And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you this coming Friday. 終わります。ありがとうございました。Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.